Together we are but first coffee. Susie's just our host, but what matters most is we are a team. Together we are all safe here, and so are you. Among friends and mods we are safe. We talk about trauma, break down drama of life, death, happy or sad, even mad. We discuss it all here. Together we will thrive, not just survive. We will dry each other's tears, celebrate big or small wins, and chase away the fears. Together we fight cults or fight addictions. If not with experience, with love, and we don't judge. Please understand, this is a safe place to land. Please understand, you're not alone. This is a safe place to land. Together we thrive, not just survive. We will dry each other's tears, celebrate big or small wins, and chase away the fears. Because we are but first coffee, and Susie welcomes us all here. Together we are but first coffee, and Susie.
Hey, everybody. We are back. Yeah, we had a whole 12 minutes between the last show and this one. So I appreciate those of you that came back for the second show or who will show up in a little bit or come back on the replay, whatever. It's absolutely great. For those of you that show up that did not watch the first show, please go back and watch it after this one's over or tomorrow or whatever. Um, and it's important, okay? It's just important. So, oh yeah, you just started on the replay. Yeah. Thanks, Journey. Anyway, aw. Yeah, John. Uh, you're so funny. I actually can't do it from here anyway, but yeah, I'll put you on there, but I can't do it from here. So, anyway, guys, thanks for being here. The one thing that I always have that I don't have tonight, notes. I don't have a single note. So, yeah, you're still cooling off. Peaceful dance. Me too. I'm actually kind of shaking now. I was really like, it's emotional, right? It was a big one. So, anyway, this is actually a pretty serious topic we're going to have tonight, but it feels very not serious after the one we just did. So, yeah, John, I'll get you a sledgehammer. I will. So, anyway, oh, good. Mischief is popping in to see John's wanting a sledgehammer. uh, yeah, I don't have a deal to mod anybody tonight. I am looking for a couple of mods. So, I'm gonna have to. I've got a list, and so I'm gonna kind of go down it. But if you want to be one, let me know, and I will put you on the list. So anyway, tonight we're going to talk about men's mental health because this is still June, and so we are still talking about men's mental health. Tonight we're going to discuss how men handle divorce or the death of a spouse, and the divorce can be whether they wanted the divorce or whether they didn't want the divorce. And you know that it's really strange whenever I was doing the research, how men and I'm sure women, but we're talking about men tonight because it is about men's mental health. So, anyway, I'm making notes. So, um, men handle divorce and the death of a spouse a lot um, like they do death. So, like a divorce, they handle it the same as they do death. Isn't that something? And we think that, that men are so strong and everything, and they are, but they're just like the rest of us. They're just like, they're emotional creatures just like we women are, and so we just need to remember that, and they need to remember that. And like I said on another live that we did about that is we don't want them to fix everything. We don't want them to be perfect and all this. We just want them to be okay. So, yeah, you're still having a hard time with your previous breakup. It's hard. It is really hard. I don't think I noticed how hard it was until my divorce, and that's been, 20 something years ago. And my ex-husband reading this stuff, it was him, every bit of it. And at the time, I kind of thought he was full of it, but I guess maybe he wasn't. He was just being like he's supposed to be, really. And I was always kind of raised that men were so strong and they didn't show their emotions and stuff. And it's really been in the last 25 years that I have come to know that men do show emotions and that they need to show emotions. So, anyway, I do want to say, remember that we did I am again saying that I have a trophy now, just like the lifeboat used to have. Mine says thrive, not just survive, but first coffee. So we have this trophy. And so whenever you all have any wins, big or small, I'm gonna you know, sorta, not definitely, but I'm gonna hold the trophy up for you, like you'll be the recipients of the trophy that night. So we've already had some, which is great. I'm gonna give one to myself tonight. I think I deserve one tonight after that last show. So anyway, I'm gonna check in with the chat real quick and then we are going to get started. So anyway, yeah, I had Mischief leave a little note on here that said if we weren't here at straight up 8 o'clock that we were on our way, that first one might run over. We had 12 minutes to spare, y'all. 12 whole minutes. Darcy's, it's good to see you. Mare, thank you as always for being here. Yes, Mischief is here. She's in the back now. She's going to be starring comments. So again, yeah, hi. John's back there too. He's going to be on the stage in a minute. Again, I am just keeping that man tied up today, y'all. Tying him up. So, anyway, um, I forgot what I was going to say, but I don't know what I was going to say. But anyway, thanks for being here. Mischief is back there. Oh, put Q's and C's in your comments or questions, please, so that she can get those fast. She's going to be kind of, you know, if it gets a big chat, we're not going to be able to get through everybody if we don't really see those Q's and C's. So, Brazy, hello to you. Tony Hoban, A Quiet Peaceful Dance. Yeah, we're back. Yeah. Uh, yeah, you all look familiar, right? John's here. He says, "Give me a wrench. I'll take care of that big blonde troll." There's a couple of them. The Journey 2020 is here. Thank you so much for being here. Keep my shorts. Uh, Here we go. Go down through here. If I miss anybody, I'm sorry. My eyes are exhausted. I was up most of the night getting all those court records that I showed. So, anyway, Northern Girl, good to see you. I don't so you're in Canada, right? For some reason I always miss that at the end of people's name where it says that, but hey David, good to see you. Aw. One of them says I earned it. I earned my trophy, Mischief. Is that you? One of them back there. Oh, it was John put it. You earned it. Aw, thanks. He says you do deserve a trophy, Susie. Thank you. Uh, just a quiet, peaceful dance says I live with an ex and it gets really hard some days. He has problems with boundaries, but it's working. Cool. Yeah. That is I can't imagine. I'm really good friends with my ex, but there ain't no way in hell that we need to live together. We see each other, but and he comes here and his wife is here and yeah, keep John around. He's awesome. He is. Yeah, hit that like button, guys. Get that algorithm going up. Hmm. Okay. Just making sure I'm not missing anything. I just really appreciate y'all being here. This is really I think a great uh stream that we're going to do. It's important. So I'm going to go ahead and bring John onto the stage and we're going to get started. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm great. Long time no see.
I know, right? I mean, it's a whole, I don't know, 12 minutes.
Seems like forever.
I know. Yeah, Heat says hi again, John. And that
Hello, Heat.
voice. Yeah. Yeah. John's voice. I know it. I know it.
Mhm.
So you might explain to them a little bit about Men's Mental Health Month, that kind of thing, and coming from a man, just kinda let us know what.
Yes, if nothing else, I am your token man, Susie.
Yes, you are my token man.
Well, for those of you who don't know, June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. And in the community, not only here on Susie's channel, but also on
Mhm,
Mental Health Matters and others,
mhm,
we've been trying to get the word out about men's mental health and how important it is to recognize everyone's mental health, not just
absolutely.
women, and to also distinguish the differences between how men and women deal with their mental health.
Mhm,
And so
yes.
we've been trying to touch on some important topics related to it. And this is a very important one as well, because as you said in the beginning, men often um, hide their emotions or keep their
Mhm,
emotions inside because that's what we're programmed to do from a very early age. And because of that, we process things differently than women do
mhm,
in a lot of respects. And divorce is a very good one. And there's
mhm.
a reason why, some of you might be thinking, well, why are you talking about divorce and death? 'Cause they're kind of two
Yeah,
separate things. But men kind of
yeah,
process them the same.
yeah,
They view divorce as a death, and
mhm,
it's something worth talking about.
yeah. A lot of us view it as they say like a divorce is like the death of the marriage, a death of the dream, but men,
Mhm.
they really take it quite literal, unless you're
Mm,
my ex-husband who literally tried to kill me. So,
yeah. Not all of
but
them do
yeah,
it, but a lot of
no,
us,
yeah,
we do. We take it to heart. We take it as a failure, as a self failure,
yeah, as a self
as
failure. That's the thing.
mhm,
It
yeah.
really is. I mean, it's just, and it seems like in so many cases, and I think that divorce and death too, that it's more acceptable for women to be emotional about these things, or it
Mhm,
seems more. It's not, but socially, I think
yeah.
it's still more acceptable for women to be more emotional about things. And I really had not been around a lot of men who, when we talk about death, um, I had
Mhm,
not been around a lot of men who had suffered the death of a spouse. I had been around women that had suffered the death of a spouse. Not a lot, but a few. But when my mom died, I got a front seat ticket, front seat basically to watch my
mhm,
dad grieve my mom, and that was a 56-year marriage, 55-year marriage. And
mhm,
they do it different. Y'all do it different. It is
yeah.
more, it's quieter, but it's there. And I think that his grief has just been so intense. And I have to wonder, I really do, and I couldn't find the stats on it,
Mhm.
but I'm throwing it out there because I want to know if anybody else wonders this too. I have to wonder if men in their, how you process things different, and if that has anything to do with why so many men marry faster or remarry faster after divorce and after death. A
Mhm.
lot of widows stay widows, but
Mhm.
a lot of widowers remarry. I mean, they're still a widower, but you know what I mean. Like
Sure.
they will remarry fairly quickly. And I
Mhm.
wonder if it is a coping mechanism.
Absolutely, it is.
I mean, I couldn't
Absolutely.
find any stats on it, but
Mhm.
I think that that's probably it. And I
Yeah.
wonder the same thing with remarriage because like my ex-husband, he like immediately was looking for a wife.
Mhm.
I was like, I am never getting married again. And I did, and I got married a couple months faster than he did. But
Yeah.
he was on the lookout and I wasn't. I mean, you could have knocked me over with a feather when Mark and I got together. It was just not part of the plan.
Mhm.
And yeah, I just remember being like, crap, what am I gonna do now? Because I think I love this guy,
Yeah.
because that was not part of the plan.
Mhm.
And yet he was looking for it. He would have married a day later.
Mhm.
So I don't know. It's crazy.
Mhm.
But anyway, we're gonna look into some of that stuff and so do please, mark those questions or comments and I see that
Mhm.
Mischief's already got some starred and she'll be starring some more. And I'm just gonna bring some stuff up that I think will kind of lead us to a little bit of conversation. And if I get a little bit out of order, y'all, please give me some mercy because that last one,
It
that
took a
was
lot
some
out of
work.
us. That was some work.
Yes, and I honestly didn't throw this one together. I somewhere missed, like lost the
Mhm.
the slides that I had for this one. I'm sure they're in the email, but it was quicker to go make them again than it was to search and search and search and search because I couldn't find them.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so at about my show was at 6 and about 5:15 I was making slides for this show. So
Mhm.
so I'm hoping I've got them where they belong, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Just forgive me if I completely mess this up.
Mhm.
So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and start bringing some stuff up and let's see what we've got here. And if you all hear TV, hold on. Mark said Mags did it.
Mm.
My dog. I'm sure that the dog did it. All of a sudden there's like this
Mhm.
loud, loud, loud. Okay, now I've got the first 3 slides that I'm going to bring up. I've got them numbered, and then after that, we are just going to
We're
go with it.
winging it.
We are winging it because I ran out of time.
Yeah. That's what
And
you
then
got me here
hopefully
for.
Mischief gave me $5. Thank you. It's a
Oh,
mercy
mercy
tax.
tax. Oh
Yeah, I need
boy.
some mercy. So, okay, this one just kinda cut to the chase a little bit, and it's the mental health effects after divorce
Mhm.
and suicide, and I'm just gonna go ahead and say it, I'm past the so many minutes. If they get me, they get me. I don't care.
Mhm.
I'm not really all that worried.
No.
But it is definitely a risk for individuals. Divorced individuals die by suicide at about 2.4 times the rate of married people.
Mm.
That's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it says that one study found that men are approximately 8 times more likely to die by suicide compared to divorced women.
Mm.
Now, if y'all can see underneath these things that I'm reading, there'll be like a little thing, and I was gonna go back and highlight those. Underneath here, and I can't read it, it's too small, but anyway, there's like a little like a little gray highlighted thing underneath them.
The sources.
That is my sources. So
Mhm.
I'm sourcing my information now after being accused of not sourcing my information. They were
Mhm.
on my sources were on that live too. They were just so small that I couldn't see them. Kinda like
Well,
tonight. So
I can tell you that the suicide stats come from psychologytoday.com.
Mhm.
The depression stats come from charliehealth.com and verywellmind.com. And the substance abuse comes from Wikipedia. So,
Mhm.
for the most part,
Okay.
very reputable sources. So, not just
Yes.
pulled out of thin air.
Yeah. So anyway, another effect of divorce on men is depression, anxiety, and PTS like symptoms.
Mhm.
And I'll probably let you do the reading of the in
Okay.
the that stuff, if you don't
So they
mind.
say,
You're gonna be
no, not a,
exhausted by the time the
not,
night's over.
no, I'm here, friend. So it says divorce is strongly associated with increased stress, anxiety, depression, and social isolation. Many men report PTSD like symptoms such as intrusive thoughts, flashbacks, and avoidance, particularly in high conflict separations.
Mm, yeah.
And then, sadly, something that we've been talking about a lot this month related to these issues, and that's substance abuse and somatic
Mhm,
symptoms. So, men who divorce
mhm,
show higher rates of substance abuse, like alcohol, and risky behaviors,
mhm.
often stemming from mental distress. And
Yeah.
a lot of that is due to, and we go back to this a lot, but it bears repeating. And it's not because men are ill equipped to deal with emotions,
No.
it's because it's beaten out of us from a very young age that that is not your place in this world. Showing your emotion is not something that you're supposed to do. So we grow up very confused as men because we don't know where to put that emotional energy. Um, we are supposed to be providers, we're supposed to be
Mhm.
protectors, and we take that role very seriously. But at the same time, when we find ourselves in emotional distress, we're not equipped to deal with it because it's not something we're taught to do.
Yeah.
And so I don't think it's that men are less emotional than women
No,
are or
no,
that we feel less. It's
no.
that we don't feel that we are able to
Mm.
um, have an outlet, have a healthy outlet for it that society won't beat us down for. So it
Absolutely.
manifests itself as
Eh
depression. It manifests itself as
yeah.
PTSD, and those depressive thoughts because we can't talk to the women in our lives about it.
Mhm.
And we absolutely can't talk with the men in our lives about it because it's
Absolutely.
taboo. So it manifests itself in violent behaviors or
Mhm,
alcohol abuse or substance
mhm,
abuse because we don't have the outlets. And
mhm.
one of the things that we've been banging the drum on this month, and I'm going to do it every June until things change, is that men need to start with ourselves. We need
Yes.
to look at ourselves as men and say to our friends, I love you, man. I really do. And I know you're going through a rough time right now. And I just want you to know that I'm here for you. And if you want to talk about it, I won't judge you. I'll try to
Mhm.
help you and we'll try to get through it together. When we start doing that as men with each other, I think we have a
Mhm.
chance.
I
But
do too.
but the way things
I
are,
have
it has to
noticed that
change.
as I've, thought about my ex-husband,
Mhm.
because I was one of those women that was guilty of that, just thinking that men just aren't emotional. They just don't, they don't feel it like we do kinda thing,
Right. But we do.
But watching him go through our
Mhm.
divorce, I think he felt it stronger than I did.
Mhm.
Maybe it was because I wanted it, but
Yeah.
he had a girl living with him, so how bad did he not want it? You know what I mean? He had moved
Mhm.
out and moved a girl in. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of a, you know, but oh man. I mean, and his emotions were real. He seriously
Yeah.
had a rough time of it. And then as
Absolutely.
watching my dad, with death, I again, another front row seat
Mhm.
of watching men handle it differently,
Yeah.
but absolutely still have those deep, deep emotions,
Mhm.
and my dad was never a very emotional person, and he is very emotional now, and he lets it be known, and he don't care who knows it, and I am
Right.
so glad. You know,
Right.
he posted a deal just the other day on his Facebook that said, "My wife was the most precious gift I was ever given, and I don't care who knows it. I'll miss her till the day I die." And I thought,
Mm.
for a 70 something, 77-year-old man, that's a
Mhm.
lot because you're talking generational things too.
And he's just not he isn't just a man, Susie. He was a man's man. He's a
Yes.
Southern man. He was a cowboy. He was a
Yes.
he
Yeah.
was a dyed in the
He's
wool man's man, you know?
Yes,
He's the
very
kind of
much.
guy that we put up on a pedestal and say, "You wanna know what
Yeah,
a real man looks like? That right there."
that right
And
there.
so for him
Absolutely.
to come to that even that late in life, that
Mhm.
must have seemed at
And that's what
first
I wish
very
that,
strange and then
I
very
it was
heartening.
very strange, but very heartening,
Mhm.
and I want my brother to pay attention to that, and I want my
Yeah.
cousins and everybody to pay attention to that because it
Mm.
has to change. We have to start letting men know that it is
Yeah.
absolutely okay to not be okay,
It
you
starts with
know?
ourselves
Yeah.
and our own male relationships.
Mhm.
We need to not make it taboo anymore for men to talk to each other. But more importantly than that, we need to start raising our sons right. We need to
Absolutely.
start raising our sons to know that there's no shame in
Mhm.
feeling those feelings. I mean, like I said, there's a reason why we're putting these two things together because in a man's
Absolutely.
world, there isn't any difference.
Mm-mm.
Because when you go through a divorce, and I'll speak from my own
Yeah.
personal experiences. I've been divorced. I went through a horrible divorce with a narcissist wife who was absolutely horrible. And it crushed me inside
Mhm.
because it was like a death. That divorce felt like a complete failure to me on my end
Yeah.
because I wasn't able to, because as the man, we're raised to believe that we're the fixers. That's our
Yeah.
job. We
Absolutely.
provide and we fix. And suddenly I was faced with something that I couldn't fix.
Mhm.
And as a man, it was gutting to me. It
Oh, yeah.
felt like I had not only let myself down, but I had let her down.
Mhm.
And yet I couldn't talk about it with anybody.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
it's a double edged sword. It really is. And you walk around with the pain of that death
mhm.
inside of you. And even though people can't see it and they
It's
think,
there.
well, she cries herself to sleep every night over it and he seems perfectly fine, but you're
Mhm.
dying on the inside.
Yeah.
And that's a pain that's even worse because at least women can express it and they're not judged.
Yeah.
Men are judged
Absolutely.
on everything we do. Every weakness we show, we're judged on.
Mhm.
And I'm
Whenever
sorry, but
when I was going through my divorce, every time I saw somebody, they'd be like, "How you doing? Are you okay?" And I thought, "I filed
mhm,
for it. I
yeah,
filed for it." I
mhm,
guarantee you nobody asked him how he was doing.
no,
I mean, I did,
mhm,
you know, but I mean, I guarantee none of his friends did.
mhm,
I can't imagine it happening. I know his friends, and I guarantee they didn't.
yeah. And I don't really talk about it a lot, but I kind of alluded to it a couple of times. I've been having a tough time in my current marriage,
Mhm.
and we've been married for July will be 28 years.
Oh, wow.
We raised 4 kids together. We've basically spent half of our lives together.
Mhm.
We fell in love. We had a family. We raised our kids. They became adults. They grew up. They moved out. We went through the empty nest syndrome thing and we lost a child, 11 years
Mhm.
ago in October. And for me, I've never lost a spouse, so I can't talk
Yeah.
about that. But I
Yeah.
can tell you that the beginning of the end for me emotionally was losing my daughter.
Mhm.
Um, because I had invested so much love into that child and to
Mhm.
be, in the spirit of full disclosure, my daughter was from my first marriage.
Mhm.
And she was severely handicapped and it was a very challenging road for her for the 20 years of her life. Um, but my second wife accepted her as her own child. She took her to doctor's
Mhm.
appointments with me. She
Mm.
was as much Hope's mother as her actual mother was. Um, that almost destroyed me. It really did because that little girl was my everything.
Mm.
And I began, and again, because I didn't have a proper outlet for that pain.
Yeah.
It took on a life of its own. It really did. And I lashed out at people that cared about me and loved me and that I shouldn't have done, but I had no other outlet. I didn't know what to do. I became angry. I became sullen. I became very quiet. I didn't talk a lot because every time I opened my mouth, it was like a fire hose turning on and it just wouldn't stop. So I had to keep it tamped down deep inside.
Mhm.
And ultimately, that was part of it. But what happens when you're left alone, when you're in a relationship and you're raising 4 kids, your life is about those kids and making sure that they have the best
Absolutely.
life possible. And once you've done your job and they've grown up and moved out, then you're faced with each other,
Mhm.
Now you're there together 24/7 and you don't have those distractions anymore. And what happens is you slowly realize that we're not the same people we were when we first got together. We have different likes
Yeah.
and dislikes, and we're nothing alike. And we
Mhm.
don't enjoy any of the same things. And it's like, how have I spent all
Mm.
these years with this stranger? You know what I mean? That I really didn't know as well as I thought I did. And coming to that realization after so many years, it feels like a death, Susie. It really does.
Yeah, oh,
It
yeah.
feels like my marriage is dying
Mhm.
and I don't know how to fix it again.
Yeah.
So, it
Yeah.
becomes that whole mentality again of I can't talk to my male friends about it because they won't understand. Um,
Mm.
I'm trained that I'm supposed to keep it bottled up inside.
Yeah.
And yeah, it feels like a death in
I
so many ways.
bet.
It really does. And the thing is, Susie, I still love her and she still
Mhm.
loves me, but we're just not in love with each other anymore. And it's a really painful realization to come to.
Oh, man, I can only imagine.
Yeah.
I
Now
was
see,
thinking of this slide as you were talking, you know,
yeah,
and
and I haven't
talking about
seen
the
this slide.
emotional reaction.
I haven't
Yeah.
seen this slide yet, but I'm looking at it and I'm like, these are the
Look at
things I'm
those first
saying right
3.
now. Yeah. So the
Those
emotional
first 3.
reactions, the first one is shame, especially around failing as a husband, failing as a provider, just
Mhm.
general failure, grief and regret. Of course,
Mhm.
my marriage is dead. What did I do? And why was I not able to save it?
Yeah.
And sudden identity crisis. Again, this is not who I was raised to be. How did I let this happen?
Yeah.
We beat ourselves up so much about it.
I was, like,
Psychological reactions,
hearing this one whenever you were talking, I was like, "I have a slide for that."
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
psychological reactions, we have suppressed
Mhm.
emotions that erupt later as anger, numbness, or risky behavior. I exhibited all of those signs. It
Mhm.
manifested itself as anger. Then I became very sullen because I don't want to say I was numb, but to the
Yeah.
outside person looking in, it probably looked that way.
Yeah.
Wow, he doesn't have any emotion about this at all. But I
Yeah.
did, and it was just bottled up. And then the risky behavior, like I was saying, like, just snapping at people, being short with people,
Mhm.
and them not deserving it and not understanding where that was coming from. Why are you angry? I didn't do anything to you.
Mhm.
And fear of future relationships. Now, you were talking a
Mhm.
little bit about this in the beginning, and like I said, I'm not gonna paint all men with a broad brush and say we're all the
No.
same because we're not. We're as different
No.
as you women
All
are
women aren't either.
from
Yeah.
each other. But I can say from my own personal experience that, um, I may not have been looking for another relationship after my first marriage, but I found one quickly.
Mhm.
And so I ended up being remarried within like 3 months of my divorce being final.
Mhm.
Um, and that could have been a very terrible thing, but I've been with this person half my life now since then.
Yeah.
So it couldn't have
Yeah.
been that terrible.
Yeah, Mark and
But
I got married very quickly too, but my
yeah.
divorce took, 2 years.
Well, that's the
But
thing. Mine took a long time
yeah.
too. So by the time it was
Yeah.
over, it felt like forever.
Yeah.
Um, and then the PTSD like symptoms of the divorce was traumatic, cheating, custody battles, abuse.
Yeah.
And fortunately there wasn't abuse in the relationship
Mhm.
as far as physical abuse. There was a lot of mental abuse.
Well, that's abuse.
Um, but it wasn't from me, it was from her.
Mhm.
But there was the cheating. I mean, we ended up getting divorced because I caught her cheating with someone.
Mhm.
And it was online at the time.
Mhm.
And this was
Yeah,
years
the
ago. So the internet was just in its infancy, and it was more like, you'd go to chat rooms and you'd start chatting with, and she's chatting it up with some convicted felon and who lives in Ohio and was telling her his life
probably with that
story. And
other Susie.
yeah. And ironically enough, my ex-wife's name is Susan, so
Oh, wow.
so it very well could be her. but and we
Mm.
went through custody issues because um I don't truly think that she loved her daughter in the way that she should. I think
Yeah.
what happens often in divorces, and this is what happened in mine, is that children become pawns in the game.
Mhm.
And it's not about I want the kid or you want the kid. It's about you want the kid and I know you do. So I'm going to
Yeah.
do everything I can to make sure that she doesn't come with you.
Yeah.
And it's about money and it's about other things too, but
Mhm.
um, she knew that the one way to hurt me would be to
Oh,
try to
yeah.
keep my daughter away from me. And this is a problem that a lot of men go through in divorces. And anybody who's been through it can tell you that the courts more often than not favor the woman unless there's some kind of
Mhm.
horrible abuse going on in the home
Mhm.
or drug abuse or something.
Mhm.
Men have very few rights in
Yeah.
marriage.
They
And
legally, they have them, but it's not followed through with. You know
yeah,
what I
it's not
mean?
practiced because,
Yeah, it's not
the
practiced. It's Mhm.
society's image is that the mother is the better parent
Mhm.
and, they can better care for the child's needs. And sometimes that's true. A lot of times that's true, but not always. And I don't
Yeah.
think men get the benefit of the doubt. And that
Yeah.
creates a whole nother set of emotional
Yeah, it
circumstances,
does.
you know. So here's a stat. Men are less likely than women to seek therapy post divorce, according to the American Psychological Association. And that just
And that
goes
also
back
you
to
can
what I
see
was
it better.
saying before. It's that it's
Mhm.
trained out of us from a very
Yeah.
early age. You don't need help. You need to man up.
Mhm.
That's what you need to do. You need to put on your big
Mhm.
boy pants and you need to move on.
Mhm.
And it's a very
That's so
easy thing to
unfair.
say, and not a very easy thing to do. So,
Mhm.
yeah. So there's a therapist note here from Dr. Will Courtney says, we tell men they'll bounce back, but without support, many spiral into loneliness and despair. Exactly. Or severe depression or,
Yeah.
whatever. I wish I had discovered therapy around the time of my divorce. It probably would have made things a lot easier. But
Probably.
as many of you know, I didn't discover therapy until much later in my life, deep into my 50s. And now that I've had it, um, I I wonder how I've gotten through the rest of my life without it. I
Yeah.
really have, without becoming a drug addict or an alcoholic or any of those things. Um, Talking point. Just because he asked for the divorce doesn't mean he's dancing in the street. And
Exactly.
that's an important point because I think a lot of people just assume that when a divorce happens that it's always the man's fault. Oh,
Yeah.
he must have been an asshole or he was abusive or whatever. And he doesn't
Mhm.
think twice about it. Well, I'm here to tell you that that's not always the case.
No,
And we
it's
take
not.
it as hard as we take death in a lot of ways. And so why it's hard mentally. Guilt over hurting kids. Of course.
Mhm. Of course.
You're not just letting yourself down. You've failed in your marriage, you've failed in your
Mhm.
job as a husband, you've failed in your job as a parent. It's all about
Mhm.
failure in our minds at that point.
Yeah, it is.
And then you have
It
doubts
is.
about the decision. Of
Mhm.
course. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just you second guess everything at that point,
Everything.
and the loneliness post separation, that's a real thing too. Because you feel like a failure, you think to yourself, and I think this is why the earlier stat that you used about men generally take longer to find a
Mhm.
relationship after a divorce, is because if you're already feeling like you're not enough for
Mhm.
someone,
Yeah.
why would you want to run into another relationship where you're just going to discover the same thing over
Yeah.
again?
Exactly.
So it makes us gun
Somebody
shy.
else crush you.
Yeah, it makes us gun shy. It really does.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
financial fear. Financial fear is a huge one. I mean, I'm at a point right now. I mean, imagine spending 28 years of your life with somebody. Literally, our entire lives are interwoven. I
Yes.
mean, just the
Yeah.
uncoupling. I'm reading a book right now
Yeah.
that many of you women have probably heard of. It's been around for a long time. It's called Conscious Uncoupling, and it's about how to end a relationship without it being ugly. How to sit down as two adults and say, I still love you. I know you still love me, but we're not in love anymore.
Mhm.
Where do we go from here? I don't want to throw away 28 years.
Yeah.
I care about you very much. I want you to be happy. How do we do that? You know,
Mhm.
and it's a very informative book. I haven't gotten very far into it yet, but a lot of the things that I'm seeing are telling me that it's okay to feel the way that I'm feeling. And I've never
Yeah.
read
It is
anything
very
before as a man that's told me that it's okay. You know what I
wow.
mean?
Well, I'm glad you're
So,
reading that now.
yeah. So here's a comment, an insight from Dr. Ronald Levant, who's a former APA president. It says men are socialized to suppress emotion. Yeah. So even when they leave a marriage, they're often unequipped to process the grief that follows. And that just goes to exactly what I've been saying. Um,
Mhm.
I noticed that Ben Bacon Bits is in the chat now. Ben and I did a show on mental health matters a
Mhm.
week
I
or
saw
so
that.
ago. And I flat out reached out to him, Susie, right on screen in front of everybody. And I said, Ben, I want you to know you are my friend. I love you. And that if you ever need to talk, I am here for you. No judgment, no questions asked. You can talk to me. And he said the same to me. And to
Mhm.
me, that was the
I
beginning.
cried when y'all said that.
That was the
I was
beginning, Susie,
crying.
because, well, I'm crying just thinking about it because I have a best friend, and I talked about it on this live. His name is Paul, and
Mm.
we've been best friends since we were 16 years old. That's 44 years.
Mhm.
And I can count on one hand the number of times that he and I have sat down and had a conversation about our emotions. Nothing else,
Mhm.
just the way we feel.
Yeah.
And that made me so sad when I came to that realization. I'm like, how is that possible? I mean, I tell
Mhm.
him everything. He's my best friend in the world, and I can't tell him those things.
Yeah.
And that's when I said
It's
to myself, you
heartbreaking.
know what? It has to start right there. And I said, and Ben was there, and I said, Ben, I want everybody to see this in real time. Let's do
Yeah.
this. And he said the same back to me. He goes, I
I
hope you
know it.
know
I
that you
cried.
can always talk to me. And that's how
Ben's
it starts,
awesome.
Susie. People think that they
Yes.
can't, I'm one person. I can't change the world. Well, guess
No, but you
what?
can change one thing.
You know what has changed the world? That's the only thing that ever has, is that one
Mhm.
person standing up saying, you know what? I can do this. And
And
it
then
starts
another, and
with
then another,
me.
and then another.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And, we talk about in this community a lot of the times, and this is something that Misha kind of invented, and it's the whole thought of the ripple effect.
Yeah.
All it takes is that one little pebble dropped into a
Mhm.
pond, and it makes these huge ripples.
Yeah.
It's like paying it forward. It's the same thing. By Ben and I making that admission to each other in front of witnesses, not
It
alone in a
normalizes it
room
for one
together.
thing.
We had a lot of witnesses that see us do
Yeah.
that. There were men in that chat that night who came forward and said, "Thank you so much for doing that." Because after I watched
Mhm.
that live, I picked up the phone and I called my best friend
Wow.
and I talked with him and we talked about our feelings for the first time ever. And
Wow.
I got so many emails and messages like that.
Mhm.
And it really
It's
warmed my
amazing.
heart. It really did. Because now I know. that we've started something now,
Hmm.
and we need to keep that wave going, and we need to keep
That's
those
right.
ripples spreading
Keep
out.
those ripples.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
when you're reading this, it was something that I noticed too whenever I was putting all this together, that
Mhm.
it says that they're often unequipped to
Yeah,
process the grief that follows. It doesn't say
yeah.
they don't feel it.
No, because
It
we
says that they're
absolutely
unequipped to
do. We
process it.
just don't know how to,
And
we're not
and a
equipped
lot
to
of that
process.
is because, like, if I am, like whenever I was going through my
Mhm.
divorce, I
Yeah,
had my best friend, I had my family, I had my
yeah.
brother, I had everybody circling
Mhm.
around me, and I was the one that asked for the divorce.
Yeah.
He didn't want his parents to know that we were filing for divorce. He kept it a secret. They didn't know for over a year that he wasn't living with me anymore.
Holy mackerel.
That's to the extent that he
Mhm.
kept it inside.
Yeah,
And I
because it's
finally said it.
shameful. It's
I
shameful.
finally told it, you
Mhm.
know, and I said, if anybody's the bad guy, make me be the bad guy, but
Right.
he's got to have his support. I've got my
Mhm.
family. He needs his.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he'd have ever told them. I guess they would have
Mhm.
figured it out when I wasn't at Christmas or anything.
Yeah.
But it was so hard for him.
Yeah.
But
And
anyway.
you kinda got, you're lucky, Susie, in the fact that, like, with your dad and with your ex-husband, you got to pull back the curtain a little bit, and you got to see
Yeah.
behind it, and most women don't ever get that
Mm-mm.
opportunity.
Mm-mm.
So, I'm so thankful that you got that opportunity because
I
it
am
opened
too.
up, because it made you see those 2 men in a different light.
It
It
does. And
made you
I
see
think
them
that
as,
that's why I'm friends with my ex-husband now.
yeah,
Because with
because now you can see him as a human.
everything that went down, there's no way he should
Mhm.
be my friend. No
Right.
way.
But
But he is.
it taught you to see him as a human being for the
Mhm.
first time, probably.
Yeah.
And, here's a good one. This is a quote from, it says, "Real talk from Travis, 36, dad of 3. I asked for the divorce, but
Mhm.
that first night in an empty apartment, I cried like I hadn't in years. I didn't realize how much of my identity was tied to being her husband." Yeah.
Mhm.
Like we said before, men have a very narrow, we're taught to have a very narrow view of what our place in this world is. We
Yeah.
are to be the providers. We are to be the husband. We are to be the father. We are to be the protector. Those are our
Mhm.
roles. And if we
Yeah.
fail in any of those roles, in our minds, we failed as a human being. You know,
Mhm.
we have not lived up to our roles. And by not having an outlet for that grief or that anger or whatever emotion it is that we're going through, we have to find an outlet. And sometimes those outlets are very harmful to everyone involved. So the talking point is divorced fathers often face limited custody, guilt, and a sense of failure. There you go,
Mhm.
right there. Challenges
No, these
include custody battles,
Mhm.
fear of becoming a weekend dad, parental alienation. I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, and all those things happen.
It does.
Your kids don't know how to respond to that stuff,
Mm-mm.
and they're constantly being
Mm.
fed these thoughts, especially if the divorce is ugly. I mean, if you're
Yeah,
really
especially.
fighting, and like I said, unfortunately, the kids get used as pawns, and so
Mhm.
it becomes, "Oh, well, your dad said this or he said that," and it's about
Mhm.
the parents trying to pit the children against the parent. And that's absolutely heartbreaking. It's horrible, but it happens all
Mhm.
the time. So
I
here's a
will I give
stat.
myself a little bit of a pat on the back on this one because
Mhm,
even though our divorce was horrible, I mean, it was horrible.
mhm.
When that was done and when I, like, saw him as human, you know, I don't mean that, like,
Took a while,
funny.
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
but, I mean,
absolutely.
really, whenever I got back to knowing that, "Hey, this guy is still the guy I loved. He
Yeah,
just did some crap things
right.
in the marriage and out." But
Mhm,
anyway, I did not do the parental alienation thing. In fact, they would, because it's a weekend thing, like they would go to their dad's on the weekend, and
mhm,
they were teenage girls.
mm.
And teenage girls wanna go shopping with their friends. They
Yeah, they
wanna
have their own
date. They
ideas,
wanna
yeah.
and I was like, "No, you're
Mhm.
going to your dad's." "Well, can I just ask dad if I don't have to?" "No,
Right,
you're going to your dad's.
and they
You
don't
can go on
understand.
you can go do these things on my weekend if I say so, and if
Mhm,
you're over at your dad's and he says that it's fine if your friends come over or you run to the mall or whatever, that's fine. But
mhm,
I'm not gonna have you make plans for your
right,
dad's weekend. And,
right.
oh boy, it did not go over good with the girls some of the time, but I'm
No,
glad I
but,
did it.
now that they're adult women, they probably understand better than they ever could
Absolutely.
have as teenagers that
Absolutely.
you have to picture that poor man sitting at home, looking at the calendar, counting the days until he
Mhm.
can see his kids again,
Mhm.
and, you know, you take that away from him,
Yeah.
and it's one of the only things he's got left to cling to,
Mhm.
and that just starts to
Absolutely.
spiral all over again.
Which in
So
our divorce, he was awarded like every other weekend kinda thing, and I told him, and we followed by that. For first
mhm,
of all, he was in the union, and he would be gone for months on end,
yeah,
and so if he was home, he got more time, and
right,
if he was out and around here, because he didn't live out here anymore, he moved to a town a hour, an hour and a half away,
uh-huh,
and so if he was out here with his parents or whatever, the girls went there. I made
yeah,
sure that if he was home, they
yeah,
saw him, and
right.
that helped so much. I think
Oh,
it
you
took
have
so much
no
of the
idea how much it helps.
anger
Mhm,
away. He
yeah,
wasn't angry with me anymore. He
right,
might have been, you know, upset with me for asking for a divorce,
yeah,
but he couldn't be angry because I did want to co-parent. I insisted on it, in fact.
mhm.
Ugh.
Well, you deserve a lot of credit for that, Susie, because a lot of
Well, and I
women
didn't do
don't
everything
go that
perfect. I'm
route.
not mentioning the
No,
bad things, but
sure.
those things I did do. I was good at not alienating. Now, they
Mhm,
saw too much during the divorce because of things he did in front of them. It wasn't
yeah,
me telling them, he was doing things in front of them.
right.
And so, I just knew it had to be different afterwards because I honestly realized this is still the same man I used to love and still do,
Mhm,
you know,
yeah.
but not in the same way at all. But anyway, but
But
yeah.
these stats, I mean, this pretty much
Mhm.
sums it up right now, what I was saying earlier. Roughly only
Yeah.
17% of divorced dads have full custody. Many
Mhm.
report feeling sidelined or erased. And here's a
Yeah.
quote from one of them. "I still go to every soccer game. I text every night, but it's not the same. I feel like I'm parenting from the outside."
It breaks my
And
heart.
it does. It breaks my heart too. And yeah, it's horrible. And we can change this,
Mhm.
people. We can. Not
Yeah.
all guys out there are terrible people, and they love their kids and they deserve to spend time with their kids. And we have to stop using them as pawns in divorces. We just do. It doesn't
Mhm.
help anybody. And
Now
not to
on this
mention what it
one,
does to the kids, you know?
yeah. This one I may have actually put in both the divorced and the death of a spouse one, but it
Uh-huh.
was on here that these are both a lot of this mental health tips goes for both,
Sure.
for either. So,
So here some of the
I don't know
tips
if I
are
put it in both or
therapy.
not.
I mean,
Mhm.
especially grief informed or men's groups. Now, I've never gotten therapy in a group environment.
I haven't either.
I've seen some of it, and I think that applies more to like AA and NA and groups like that.
I have a friend that
Because
lost his wife, and he's going to a men's group, a grief men's group, and he loves it.
yeah,
He loves it, but he also goes on his own, and the
yeah,
children
I
are in
think in
there too.
I think in a group environment can be really helpful because you're all having a shared experience
Mhm,
and you're going through it at different stages. So some men
mhm,
have already been through it and come out the other side. Some men are in the middle of it. Some men might be at the beginning. So you're basically bouncing off of each other to get there, to all get to the same place. And
mhm,
some men are going to have much more insight than others will. And
mhm.
yeah, I think that could be a really good thing.
I do too.
Routine structure helps rebuild identity. And
Absolutely. I can
that
see
goes
that.
that goes back to the visitation thing as well. So part of
Mhm.
routine is knowing when you're going to see your kids,
Yeah.
planning activities for you to do with them that creates a sense of normalcy. And
You
when
know,
you
and some
let
of
the
it
kids,
too, my ex-husband actually fell into a routine with when he paid his child support, when he saw the
mm,
kids,
yeah,
when he, just the different things, and I don't mean it to be all about child support because it wasn't.
right.
He was ordered to pay me $1,500 a month in child support, and I took 800. So,
Mm,
you know, I was not in
hmm
it for the money. I only made him pay that because he made me mad because he said he wasn't gonna
hmm
pay anything, and I said, "Well, will you pay this?" You know?
yeah,
So, but
right.
anyway, but he did begin to after a while, he liked the routine of it
hmm
and of when his vacation time was with the kids, when his visitation was with the kids, and it wasn't just about the kids,
right.
it gave him a time to have friends or a
Yeah,
girlfriend that he could
absolutely.
have routines with.
hmm Yeah,
And
because you
it
think about it, that's what marriage is all about, and raising kids,
Mhm,
it's all about routines.
mhm,
Knowing what time the girls go to school and what time I gotta pick them
mhm.
up at the bus and, what time their soccer game is, and when you have the
Who's their
rug yanked
doctor,
out yeah, when you
you know?
have the rug yanked out from you like that, all of that goes away,
Yeah.
and you desperately want that structure in your life. It's what keeps you whole. So,
Mhm,
exercise. Yeah, exercise is a big one too. I started going on
mhm.
walks. I started, going to the gym back then just
Yeah.
to, channel that energy in a different direction. So it relieves anxiety and stabilizes mood, and it absolutely does.
I
Creative
have to laugh
expression.
real quick, though. I
Go
have to
ahead.
laugh because the men in my life that I know of that have gotten divorced on this
Mhm.
mental health tip should be get a tattoo of barbed wire around your arm. Because I swear they all had Mark didn't, but,
Mhm.
he got divorced, actually him and his he got divorced before I did, but he didn't get any tattoos, but yeah,
Mhm.
all the men around here get barbed wire around their arm. So, anyway,
I
sorry.
wondered what that was about. I'm a blank canvas myself, but yeah,
Yeah,
now I understand.
Mark is too, he don't have any tattoos.
So, creative expression, journaling, woodworking, music.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, and it's whatever it is to them, those are just ideas,
yeah,
those are just ideas.
music is a big
So
one for me.
Mhm,
And I like, well, I like all kinds of music, but I know
mhm.
that when I'm feeling particularly bad, I like what they refer to nowadays as divorced dad rock, which is like heavy metal music. Music
Yeah.
that makes you wanna pick up a chair and throw it through a window, you know? Because it's an outlet to channel those feelings.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and then spiritual connection, and you know what? You can't sleep on faith. You really can't
Mm-mm.
because you think about
Well
for those of us who are religious, you think about
Mhm,
all of the times that God got you through a bad situation, just having that conversation with God and laying
mhm,
it out on the line. For a lot of men, that's our secret outlet is
mhm.
it we can talk to God behind closed doors. Nobody's going to judge
Yeah,
us.
nobody has to know.
Nobody has to know.
But, the
Exactly.
whole spiritual connection could be it doesn't even have to be God. It can be a
Sure.
spirituality, it can be a spiritual with, just with how they say touch grass?
Yeah.
It can be with the earth, with
Mhm.
the some people are very spiritual about the ocean or
Yeah.
water in general. It can
Mhm.
be a lot. So, I mean, I am a woman of faith, and so, yes, I
Mhm.
do lean on my faith in God, and
Mhm.
but it could be anything. Spiritual doesn't have to be God,
Mhm.
it is whatever it is to you.
Right.
So, anyway.
And these 2 are very important things. Every guy in the chat, I want you to pay close attention to this as I'm reading it. An important reminder, you are not weak for hurting. You're human. And a quote from a coach. It's not
It
about getting
actually
over
being
her.
but hurting is actual a sign of being a good
It's
person,
growth. Yeah.
you know?
It's a sign
Anyway,
that your
sorry.
heart's still beating and that you're still alive
Yeah.
and you're not the cold,
I mean,
heartless
if you just
monster that
didn't
people
care,
think
you'd
you
be
are.
a yeah, if you didn't care
Yeah.
enough to hurt, then you would just be that cold, heartless monster.
Yeah.
So
And then most importantly, it's not about getting over her. It's about getting back to you. It's not about
Absolutely.
being a failure. It's about
Mm-mm.
finding yourself again in the midst of all this.
Mm-hmm. And we're gonna hope that I can figure out where I was at because we've lost track of what number is what now, and I'm liable to pop the same one up on the stage. Ugh. Okay, I did that one. I did that one. I think I'm down here.
Mm. All right. So mental health effects after divorce. Oh, we already did this
Okay,
one.
we already did those. Yeah.
Yeah, we did that one.
I yeah. See?
Yeah.
I threw some up in there a couple of times, y'all. I was running trying to get everything done. I was
Hey,
crazy.
kudos to you for being able to put two shows together within like an hour and a half of each other.
Yeah.
So, all right. So
I
men's mental health, fast facts. 1 in 4 men experience a mental health issue in their life. That's 25%. That's a
Mhm.
lot of men. Only 1 in 10 men seek help from a mental health professional. 10%. Men die
Mhm.
by suicide 3.9 times more often than women. And it goes back to what I was saying before. We feel so helpless, like we have no
Mhm.
outlet. And that
Because you won't talk to
sometimes,
everybody. You
yeah,
can't
and
talk to
sometimes
everybody.
that's the only thing that makes sense to us,
Mhm. I
for
get it.
right or for wrong.
Yeah.
Men are less
Yeah.
likely to be diagnosed with depression, but more likely to go undiagnosed.
Yeah. They are
Again,
un they're not diagnosed because they don't get diagnosed.
right, and you can't be
It breaks my
diagnosed
heart.
unless you go to see somebody and
Yeah,
talk to
that's what I mean.
somebody. Yeah.
It just to think about
I feel you,
see,
Susie, and
as a
the sad
woman,
part.
I'm not like, I don't feel bad if I go to my doctor
Mhm.
and I say, "I'm depressed." You know?
Right.
I need the harder part for me in that is to admit to myself that I need the help. But once
Right.
I figure out that, "Hey, I can't do this by myself," I'm not
Mhm.
afraid to go ask for the help.
Right.
I went 2 weeks ago and I said, "You're going to have to up my, anxiety meds because of
Mhm.
everything that's in that first video that we did a while ago."
Yeah.
And she did, she's actually tripled it.
Mm.
And I probably need it higher, but after tonight, I'm hoping not.
Yeah.
But yeah, but men don't go, is my point, is that
Right.
I went. I wasn't
Mhm.
they didn't even have to talk me into it. I was just there for another reason that I was there, actually, talking about my, migraines, and I
Mhm.
said, "You're gonna have to do something about this anxiety. I can't do it," and I told her, what was going on, and
Mhm.
so, see, I just, like, an afterthought told her. That's
Yeah.
not an afterthought for a man.
No. We agonize over things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Agonize.
And some women do. I'm not trying to say that,
Yeah.
all women just, like, it's easy, but I'm just saying that
Mhm.
statistically, you know,
Right.
yeah.
And then the last stat is seasonal affective disorder affects up to 6% of men, but few are ever treated.
Mhm.
I'm not really familiar with that term. I'll have to
Well,
look
a
that
lot
up
of it has
after.
to do with, like, Christmas,
Oh,
um,
okay.
you
Seasonal.
know
Yeah, got it.
yeah,
Easter,
yeah,
holidays that you're
all the
used to spending with
holidays and
your
all that.
family.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes
A lot
sense.
of it has to do with that.
Yeah, that makes
So,
sense.
let's see. I got a couple more in here, and then we're gonna move on. I'm hitting the wrong area of my mouse.
That's okay.
So here's this one. See what it is. It might be. Oh, that's the same one. See, I know. I
Mhm.
just threw some in there all
That's all right.
together now.
That's all right.
uh, it's a miracle there's anything in there. And this one might be one too, but oh no, this one's new. Yay!
Yay. So, and a lot of this is just gonna be repeating what we've
It's
already
gonna
been
be
saying,
repetitive.
but that
It's just
just lets you
different
know,
sources and stuff. Yeah.
because you know that I haven't seen any of these things, so I'm speaking from my heart and from my own experiences,
Mhm.
and then
Yeah,
what
he's
we're
not
throwing
seen
up.
this.
Right, and then what we're throwing up on the screen is just basically justifying everything I've said. So, for
Mhm.
many men, divorce feels like a death. But unlike a funeral, there's no ceremony, no casseroles, no support, just silence.
Absolutely.
And the mental health impacts are depression, rage or emotional shutdown, sleep problems. That's
Mhm.
another common thing that we didn't really talk a lot about, but
Yeah, we
that's a
didn't talk
very
about
real
that one.
thing too. Substance abuse and risk of suicidal ideations. And like I
Mhm.
said, it's not because we have more of a predilection to suicidal
Mm-mm.
ideations. It's because we
No.
don't have the outlets that women have.
Yeah. You
And the stat supporting that says, according to the Journal of Men's Health, divorced men are twice as likely to suffer from depression and suicide than divorced women. And I think that goes back
just
to what Susie was
hits
saying,
me.
because women know that they have a support system.
Yeah,
And
I do too.
again, I'm not going to paint all women with the same brush. I know there
No, of
are
course
women
not.
out there that feel so alone
Mhm.
and
We're
don't
talking
have that support
statistically.
system.
You
Yes.
know.
But more often than not, women have those outlets
Mhm.
more than men do. And here's a quote from
Absolutely.
Mark, 49, an electrician. She said she fell out of love. I didn't even see it coming. I still set the table for two for weeks. I felt like I was losing my mind. Mm. And that's where I found myself in my current situation. This is
Mhm.
not a new thing. This just didn't happen
Mhm.
yesterday. This happened 2 years ago.
Mhm.
And here's how it manifested itself. Every day, I spent every day of my marriage telling my wife that I loved her. Every day.
Mhm.
I would kiss her before she went to work and I would say, I love you, honey.
Mhm.
And at a point about 2 years ago, I started getting, instead of getting the response, I love you too, I started getting the response, aw, that's sweet. And I thought,
That's
okay. The first
worse.
the first couple times it happened, I thought, okay, maybe she's just not feeling it today. And then
Mhm.
after about a month of that every day, I finally confronted her and I said, why are you not returning my affection anymore?
Mhm.
And she said, I don't feel right saying it because I don't feel the same anymore. And I said, what do you mean?
Mhm.
And she said, I love you, but
Mhm.
I don't feel that giddy, like I'm so in
Yeah.
love feeling anymore. And it was like we slowly fell out of love with each other.
Mhm.
And it was heartbreaking for me.
And, we
I
can say it that, we don't feel that giddy kind of thing,
yeah,
but you can be past the giddy stage and still be the in love stage. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So
right.
that's an explanation of it. We often say, "I don't feel that giddy kinda thing
Yeah.
anymore,"
I
and
don't
but
feel like
we
a schoolgirl
intellectually
anymore. Yeah.
intellectually, we know we're not gonna feel that way. But
Mhm.
what we mean is, and I'm speaking as a woman,
Mhm.
what we mean is, I'm not in love with you.
Right.
I love you, but
Yeah.
I'm not in love with you.
And I got the
And I've
memo
said that.
right away when she said
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
And because I could see the hurt in her eyes when she said it.
yeah, yeah,
And I thought, wow, so basically at this point, we've been together for so long that we're just kind of roommates. We're friends,
yeah,
that have spent a long time, that know each other well. And we're so
mm,
used to that
mm,
are we just content just going through the motions? And I'm
yeah,
not. I mean, I'm almost in
yeah,
October, I'll be 60, Susie. And
mhm,
I keep thinking to myself, I have many more years behind me than I have ahead of me.
yeah, I think that
And
too.
will I be happy spending the rest of my days like this? Or
Yeah,
do I think that I could find happiness again with someone
mhm,
else and enjoy my golden years, whatever you want to
mhm,
call them? And after, I've agonized over it for months. And I finally sat down and I said, no, I want to be happy. I
mhm.
want her to be happy.
Yeah.
I'm not coming from a selfish place. I want us both to be
No, I
happy in
mean,
our
and
golden
and
years.
it
And I
doesn't
think
have
we
to come from
deserve,
a place of anger or hate. It can just come from a place of just trying to make it better for everybody,
yeah,
for both of you,
exactly.
you know?
And we had conversations about going to therapy, and it was just like, you know, I,
Yeah,
I don't think that at this stage in the game that therapy is going to save us. It
yeah,
might help to get some of the emotions out, but it's not going to save us. And
yeah,
so I'm reading that book, Conscious Uncoupling, and I'm having her
mhm,
read it as well because I don't want to throw away the 27 years that I spent with
yeah,
her because those are
Exactly.
precious times to me. And I always
Absolutely.
want her to be in my life in some way, shape, or form. And I know that there's a healthy
It
way to do that. And that's what I'm convinced I'm going
it's
to do.
doable.
Yeah, it
If
is.
my ex-husband and I can be in each other's lives, I mean, and we at times it was absolute hate during that
Hmm.
divorce. I mean,
Oh, I
hate.
can imagine. Yeah.
And, now it's not. Not at all. Not at all. I am good friends with his wife.
Yeah.
I she comes and tells me stuff that he does sometimes, and I'll be like, "Get you some
Your
of that."
problem now.
Yeah.
Been there,
One
done
time
that.
he one time he made me mad after we had gotten divorced and they were married, and I can't remember now what he did, but he did some little something and it irritated me, and I said, "You know, I don't have to put up with your shit anymore. I divorced you."
Right. You're not my
I said,
problem
"This is"
anymore.
I said, "This is my house. You can
Yeah.
either, play by the rules or you can leave." And he played by the
Hmm.
rules. So,
Yeah,
and I don't mean
exactly.
that to be hateful.
No,
I just meant, "Hey, I
you
deserve
did your
some
time.
respect too."
Hmm.
So, anyway, like I said, he's a jerk, but he's a good guy. He's a good jerk.
But that's the thing, you spend that much time with somebody and you know that there's a reason you fell in love with them in the first
Yeah.
place. That doesn't go away. The jerk
No.
shit stays with you, yeah.
Yeah, the
But
jerk.
if you can find a way to say, "You know what? I loved you once, and
Yeah,
I will
absolutely.
miss you if you're not in part of my life anymore in some form."
But
So,
if you keep acting like that,
yeah,
I'm
I
gonna have to
will knock
start
the hell
missing
out of
you.
you, though.
Now these go more towards after the loss, with
Mhm.
widowhood. There's just a couple of these because so
Okay,
many of the things in the previous thing go with it, and then I've got a little group of stuff after these 2 that
okay.
is interchangeable.
So now we're
So,
talking about spousal loss or
yeah,
widowhood.
which neither
And
one of us
so
has had, but I know there's plenty of
right,
people in the chat that have.
right. And I do have friends that have gone through the death of a spouse,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I know a little
Well,
bit,
I
but
can look at it
again
from my dad, just
mhm,
watching my dad, not feeling what my dad's feeling, but watching him
right,
and what he
exactly.
expresses that he feels.
And like we said at
Um,
the beginning, you're gonna see a lot of the same things because
Absolutely.
men deal with a divorce in much the same way that they deal with a death
Mhm,
because it is a death. So
mhm.
you're gonna see a lot of the
And
same things.
and
So
again, I do have my sources on these whenever
mhm.
on the part that didn't have the sources while ago, that was because they were extenuated from the ones that did have the sources, if that makes any sense.
Yep.
So they,
And so some
anyway.
of the things associated with spousal loss is elevated depression. Widowed
Mhm.
individuals face significantly higher depression levels. One meta
Mhm.
analysis saw short term prevalence at 24%
Approximately. Yeah,
approximately
approximately.
24% immediately after loss, declining to 14% by 2 years later. And that is
My dad
from
is 3 years
Springer.com.
out, just it's
Hmm.
as of May the
Hmm.
29th, he was 3 years out. I think he's honestly worse now. He's he's he handles things better,
Hmm.
but he misses her more. It's been longer.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
now he's like, "Man, I can't believe I haven't seen, Doris, and I haven't seen your
Hmm.
mom in 3 years." And of course, he
And
used to love my cooking and everything, and now nothing I cook measures up to my mom's cooking.
and
Nothing.
I think in a way women probably deal with this too, but
Mhm.
I think that as time goes by and you start to feel better about yourself, you
Yeah.
have more days when you can smile, you have
Mhm.
more days when you can laugh. And I think because men, again, it goes back to us being so bottled up all the time.
Mhm.
I think that that brings a level of guilt with it
I think so
that
too.
I should not be happy. My wife is gone
Yeah. My
and
wife
she's
died. How can I be smiling?
right, exactly. And then it just makes us crawl deeper inside of ourselves.
Mhm.
So that's and the more that time goes by, I don't think that time heals that. I really don't.
Mhm.
And I
I
think
don't
that
think
goes
so
back
either.
to the whole thing about when you lose a spouse, nobody's in a hurry to run out and have a new relationship
Yeah.
because you feel like you're betraying that person by doing that.
Mhm. I think
And
that's why
then
with my dad, he's like, "Why would I ever want another woman? I had the best," you know?
right,
Why
exactly. Nobody's gonna
or,
measure up to
he's
that.
like, "Well, do you know how much I invested in that woman? I can't afford to invest in another one." Just
Who
depends
wants
on the
to
mood.
start over having to train a new one, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure women feel the same way. I'm not
Oh,
training a
yeah.
new one. It took me 20 years to
Not
train his
training
ass.
anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, look what it
So, and
yeah.
then they say, in older adults, widowhood leads to substantial increases in depression, especially in the first 2 years. Yeah, because
Mhm.
well, when it's
Yeah, I
fresh.
think that he was more depressed the first 2 years, but I think
Yeah,
now he's more lonely. He
yeah,
misses her. He
right.
was upset over her dying the first 2 he still is, obviously,
Oh,
but
sure.
the first 2 years, it was just all about, "Oh my god, she died," you know?
Yeah.
And
And then it
now
became
it is,
about,
"I miss her."
mhm,
I miss he didn't put up a Christmas tree,
I know.
and, I mean, he was like, "Well, your mom always did that." So this year, we're
Hmm.
putting up a Christmas tree. We're gonna make sure, but,
Um,
you
that's
know,
sweet.
there's things, and now he's letting me take care of things that he didn't like, was weird about it, like, he wouldn't
Hmm.
let us he would say,
No,
"I
that
don't
was your
need
mom's
anything."
job. Yeah, that
Yeah,
was my,
yeah,
yeah.
and so he let first of all, Megan just ordered him some shoes when he needed some new shoes and some boots, and, well, she got him some Hey Dudes, and I don't know if anybody knows what that is, and the
I
man
got
has
a pair.
only
I
ever
love
worn
them. So
I
comfortable.
do too,
Hmm.
but
Very
I
comfortable.
have several pair, but anyway, so does Mark, but anyway, so he had only ever worn boots and occasionally a pair of sneakers, like Nikes or something.
Oh, I have a
Now you should see his closet. He's got, different Hey Dudes, he's got different sneakers,
I'm
and he's
telling you.
letting me and Megan do things.
Yeah.
And just the other day for Father's Day, I got him 2 shirts, which I had bought him some shirts for Christmas and stuff too, but this was like
Mhm.
Father's Day, and he goes, "Oh, you don't need to be buying me stuff," and I said, "Listen, Dad, you're the only parent I've got left,
That's right.
and I have
You
all
are my
this love that
dad.
has to go somewhere, and
Mhm.
gift giving is my love language.
Oh,
So
yeah, me
suck it
too.
up and take it."
Me
That's
too.
what I
Me
told him. I
too.
said, "Suck it up and take it."
Yeah,
So I
me
got him
too.
2 pairs of jeans, 2 shirts, and he's so weird about how all these, the oh, the word just went out of my head. My brain's not working tonight. The military men, the ex-military men. What's the word for that? I can't think of it. But anyway,
Civilians?
no, the ones that like they were in the war. What's the word?
Veterans?
Veterans. Why
Yeah.
can I not get that word? He was
Because you've been
in
on damn YouTube for 4 hours, that's why.
yeah, plus preparing everything.
Yeah.
But anyway,
You're
he's a
human, Susie.
veteran. He was in Korea. He won't hardly stand up when there's, like, that church or whatever, and they, like, wanna, like, pat the veterans on the back kind of thing. He
Mhm.
won't hardly do it because he
Mhm.
feels like that because he was not in combat. Now, he had to carry a gun, and
Mhm.
he almost got shot, but what he was, which is kind of hilarious if you just knew my dad, he was the cook. And he was in Korea, and we see
Uh,
all these people that were in combat in Vietnam, and so he
yeah.
just, like, shies away from it. Well, I've
Mhm.
always been proud of it. I have been
Absolutely.
proud of him for
You thank you
yes,
thank that man from me for his
I will.
service.
Well, I bought him 2 hats. One I got from the veterans service thing, that
Mhm.
says Korea on it and says, that he's a veteran and all that. And then I
Mhm.
got him one that says, "I'm a grandpa and I was in Korea, blah, blah, blah. You can't scare me," kind of deal.
Yeah.
And he's actually wearing them, and he never
Yeah.
would. And whenever he put that hat on,
Mhm.
I looked up at the sky and I told my mom, "Ha, finally."
Mhm.
And it's like he's finally I don't know, he's letting loose of that, like, having to be, like I don't mean this bad, but, like, the man, and to
Yeah.
him, even though he was a veteran, it was so wrapped up in the fact that he wasn't in combat, and I said, "Well, who do you think supported all those if you weren't there cooking?"
Right, who do you think fed those guys? Yeah. But they don't
Yeah.
look at it that
So
way. They see
no,
their
they don't.
friends dying all around them, and
Yeah, and he had friends die.
it makes them
He
feel
had
like
friends
less
die.
than. Yeah.
But, yeah, I just
Mm,
But I mean, why I brought all that up was because he's finally letting us do these things for him. Those were
yeah,
mom's jobs. And
right.
we're 3 years out, and he's just now starting to kind of the only thing he'd let me do was cook, but then he would always say, "Well, it wasn't as good as your mom."
Well, and you
Other
know
than those
why?
steak and onion fajita or quesadillas. Now I don't think she ever made steak and onion quesadillas, so he does brag on those. But anyway.
But it goes back to what I was saying before. He thought that he was dishonoring her memory
Mhm.
by
Yeah.
letting other people do her job. So
Mhm.
he would rather just go without those things
Yeah.
than dishonor his wife. And that's
Yeah. Isn't
very
that sad?
admirable, but it's also bad.
But it's also very man, you know what I
Of
mean?
course, it's a
It's
natural
very
response.
man. Yeah.
It's what we're trained for. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it says that there's a greater psychological impact on men. Some studies report men suffer more than women following spousal loss, and they experience more intense loneliness post loss due to smaller social networks. And
Yep.
that's what we've been talking about. Women
Mhm.
have many much larger support systems than men do.
Yeah.
And let's see, it says the widowhood effect, mortality and physical health. Men face a 70% higher risk of death within 1 year after losing a spouse compared to non widowed peers. The initial 3 months post loss bring roughly a 66% increased mortality risk. Thereafter, around a 15% increased risk persists. And that's,
Isn't that devastating?
it is 70% within a year.
Mhm.
And you hear those stories all the time. I mean, I have
That they died within weeks of each other or
within weeks.
days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's because and a lot of times it's when the woman dies first,
Mhm.
the
It
men
is.
literally die of broken hearts. They literally
Mhm.
do. And that is
Mhm.
so sad. It really is.
Oh,
And
I
again, I
know.
think it's
It
preventable.
breaks
It
me.
really is. So I know we've droned on, guys, but if you get nothing else from this live, get this is that we have to, as men, we have to embrace each other. We really do. We have to become networks for each other.
We do. You
We
absolutely
have to
do.
let our sons know that it's okay to feel and that it's okay to express those emotions. And just as men, we need to support
Mhm.
each other in every way we can
Well,
emotionally.
and as women, we need to support that too, and we need to support you having those male friendships that you can talk to them.
Yeah.
Because I think that even if you're talking to us, you still need to be
Mhm.
talking to them
Sure.
because it's different. It's like girls have girl talk, that kind of thing. Sometimes you
Yeah.
just gotta have your girl talk,
Yeah.
but guys need it too, and as women, we have got to support that too. So I can't stress it enough.
Here, here.
Now we're
Amen,
into the
sister.
effects, thank you. We're
So
into the
social
effects, and I think I might have doubled up on some of these too, so it won't go very long. This is the last group I have.
okay. So now that we're talking about social isolation and help seeking. So
Mhm.
divorced and
And
widowed
these
men,
go yeah, it goes with divorced and widowed, so
yeah.
sorry.
And like I said, so a lot of these things are going to mirror each other. So
Mhm,
divorced and widowed men are more prone to social isolation with fewer emotional support options compared to women. There you go.
mhm.
A US data analysis found that being divorced or socially isolated was associated with higher odds of male suicide, showing chronic isolation as a strong risk factor.
Mhm,
And then what helps mitigate these risks? Social support networks, friends,
mhm,
family, bereavement groups help buffer
mhm.
loneliness and depression. Yes, they do. Mental
Yeah,
health care, especially trauma informed therapy and grief counseling, can
I
address
thought that was very
depression.
important because
Yes,
it is a trauma.
it
It is
really
not
is.
just and whether it's divorce or the death, it is a trauma.
They're both traumas, sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, trauma informed therapy and grief counseling can address depression, anxiety, and PTSD like symptoms.
Mm,
And then timeliness matters. Early intervention, especially in the first few months post loss or divorce, is critical.
mhm,
That says these findings show that men are at elevated risk for serious mental and physical health issues after divorce or spousal loss, especially during the early stages. Support through social, psychological, and clinical means is vital to help them recover.
Absolutely.
Amen. Oops,
Absolutely.
Amanda.
I know we're, like, repetitive about it, but sometimes you have to repeat things because maybe somebody it didn't click with them the first time, but it might the second or third
Right.
time,
And
you know?
also it goes
Honestly, I'm that way.
and also it goes back to what we've been saying since the beginning is that you may not, when you clicked on this thumbnail, you may not have thought that the two of those things had any correlation to each other
Mhm.
whatsoever.
And they
But by
do.
the end of this, you should at least know that as men, we do lump them together very
And
often.
we're not doctors. We are not
Right.
professionals. We're coming to
No.
you with information from doctors,
Yeah.
but what was it James, Collins says he's a carapist.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
not a therapist, he's a carapist.
Yeah. I really
So I
liked
thought
him. He
that
was
was
a character,
adorable.
but I liked
He
him.
I liked him a lot. I loved him.
Yeah.
He's great.
So, key emotional and psychological impacts: grief and depression. Depression is highly common in divorced and widowed men. A
Mm,
2021 study in the Journal of Men's Health found divorced men were 2.5 times more likely to experience depressive symptoms than their married counterparts.
mhm.
Widowers have a higher risk of developing clinical depression than widows, particularly in the first year after loss.
And clinical depression leads to a lot of physical problems. It can lead to stroke, it can lead to heart failure,
Yes.
high blood pressure, you
Hmm.
know, it's a serious, serious thing, and that goes along with why they often pass,
Hmm.
so quickly after
Yeah.
because they start having physical problems because they were having depression. So
Yep. And you've heard me say this, you've heard Keela say this, you've heard a lot of people say
mhm,
this before. It is possible, and it happens a lot when you get so far into your own head
mhm.
that your mind literally will make your body sick. And
Absolutely.
it manifests itself in a lot of different ways, but it does. It absolutely does.
Mhm,
All right. Let's see here. Complicated grief. Men are more likely to experience complicated grief, which can involve numbness, anger, guilt, or withdrawal rather than open sadness. Because
mhm.
we will look for every avenue that is not open sadness first.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
And
better
then,
to be numb, it's better
yeah.
to be mad, it's better to be guilty,
And then
whatever.
this
It's better
and
than
this
being
pretty much
sad.
sums it up right here. Masculine norms can make it harder for men to express vulnerability,
Mhm,
leading to emotional bottling.
mhm,
Anxiety and PTSD like symptoms.
mhm,
Divorce involving high conflict, custody battles, or infidelity can trigger symptoms akin to post traumatic stress. Feelings of failure, betrayal, or humiliation can linger and intensify anxiety disorders.
mhm,
And then suicidality. One of
mhm,
the most alarming risks. Suicide rates spike significantly for men post divorce or spousal death. Divorced men are 8 times more likely to die by suicide than divorced women. Widowers under age 65 have a 50% higher suicide rate than married men. Those are scary numbers, guys.
I thought they were staggering.
They're
Whenever I saw this, I thought
scary.
this was
I
ugh,
mean, it hurts my heart just to read those numbers. It's
it does
bad.
me too.
Yeah, it
That's
is
why I was
bad.
so glad that you were gonna be on here. I would have been bawling through this whole thing
Yeah. Well, I
because I just
I'm proud of myself. I only cried a couple
yeah,
times at the beginning. That's pretty good.
yeah.
And, this is heart-wrenching stuff, guys, and I've been through it, and I'm still going through it, and it doesn't get easier. But if you have a support
Yes.
system around you, and if
Yeah.
men aren't afraid to speak their truth to each other,
Mhm.
we can get through this. We don't have to, our lives don't have to be over because of this. Um, let's see here. Isn't this, did we just read this? Oh,
No, this is the physical. We
oh,
talked
okay.
about the mental, now we
Physical
go to
health
physical.
consequences. Okay. So men dealing with grief or divorce are less likely to seek medical care and more likely
Mhm,
to engage in substance abuse or abuse, alcohol, drugs, even
mhm,
prescription meds, risky behavior, reckless driving, casual sex, self neglect. Studies link post divorce or widowhood in men to higher rates of cardiovascular disease, obesity, sleep disorders, chronic pain.
Yeah.
Susie and I have a live planned for, I'm not sure when we're going to be doing that one, but
Someday
we
this week.
we're
This
going to
coming
talk
yeah.
about men, how men handle eating disorders differently than
Mhm.
women do.
It's crazy. I didn't even
Um,
think about it till I just
and
saw
yeah,
something.
you think about it. I think back to the first time I heard somebody talk about anorexia or bulimia or any type of eating
Mhm.
disorder, I think was in school when I was a
Yeah.
teenager. And I thought about it from that first time I had heard about it to right now today. It's only women we ever talk about.
Mhm.
You don't ever see
Absolutely.
photos
Mm-mm.
of bony men or
Mm-mm.
men purging themselves because we don't think of it as a male thing.
Mhm.
But guess
But
what,
it
guys?
is.
There are a lot of men out there that are experiencing it too.
And there's a lot more than just anorexia and the purging, the binging
Yeah,
and purging.
yeah,
There's a lot of others, and we're gonna go over those,
sure.
and
Stress eating is
it's
a big one. I can talk very strongly to that
Mhm.
topic. Um,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's see here. Sleep disorders, chronic pains. Okay. Social isolation and identity loss. And you it does sound repetitive, but I mean it bears repeating a lot of it.
Well,
So
I like it
loss of
because they listed it as in the mental things and mentally and emotionally, but then they're mentioning it in the
in the
health. I mean,
physical.
it's all health, but the actual physical.
Yeah.
So I really liked this one because it showed it does correlate. It's
Yeah. And it goes back to what we were saying is that men bottle it up and
Mhm.
you can only there's only so much room in a bottle, guys. And when the
Yeah,
bottle is full, it's gonna blow.
yeah.
So, and inevitably, the mind is gonna affect the body in many of the
Mhm.
same ways. And so that's why it sounds like we're repeating ourselves, but it's for a good reason.
Mhm.
So, social isolation and identity loss. Loss of companionship is often deeper for men because statistically, men rely more on their spouse for emotional
Mhm.
support than women do.
Mhm.
Men are less likely to have a strong friend support network, attend therapy or support groups, or share grief openly. And
Mhm.
older widowers in particular may experience social death, extreme isolation, inactivity, and hopelessness.
I just bawled my eyes out when I saw those because I
Yeah.
think about my dad, and
Yeah.
there's times that I don't go up there for a few days on end, and yet
Mhm.
I know he's other than he does not every day, but most days he does load up and go down to the little convenience store here in our little community, and he talks to some of
Mhm.
his friends.
Mm.
But then
But
he's
other
back
than
home
that,
within an
he's by
hour.
himself. Yeah.
He's by himself, and
Yeah.
so we
And that
really have to
isolation.
remember to check on those men
Yeah,
and not
that
let them just he's fine with it. I mean, he's not,
yeah.
but,
Well, some guys are,
he's
but yeah, social
yeah,
isolation can be crippling. It really can.
yeah, yeah.
And then
But it
lastly,
just we need
father
to check on them. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
absolutely. And then lastly is fatherhood and divorce. So, divorced men with limited custody can experience loss of parental identity, leading to grief similar to bereavement. Again,
Mhm.
it goes back to viewing them both the same as a death.
Yeah.
Parental
Mhm,
alienation, which causes anger, despair, and shame, and
mhm.
challenges adjusting to single parenting or stepfatherhood in future
Mm.
relationships. Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
lot, guys.
it is a
And if you
lot.
don't have anywhere to turn to talk about your emotions, it's even more. So,
And if you won't talk about your emotions, so not only are we saying you gotta have somebody you can talk to, we're also
yeah.
saying you gotta talk to them.
Right.
You gotta go talk to them.
Once you have them, you gotta be able to open up, yeah. So, mental health tips,
Oh,
therapy,
we are
especially
yeah, this is the
oh,
one we already covered.
oh,
I
we
said
did
that I
this
thought
one,
it was
yeah.
in both sections. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
It's the
yeah.
same thing with therapy, having a routine and exercise and all that
Right.
for as it was
Okay.
for the
Well,
divorce.
so let's go to the
Yeah.
bottom then, because this closing
Oh,
thoughts I really
hold on,
liked.
hold on.
Pop
Yeah,
that back
hold on,
up.
I'll put it back up there.
No problem.
Okay,
So,
I'm gonna
closing
move this
thoughts.
so they can see it good. Okay.
Yeah. If you're a man watching this, whether you left, got left, or just feel lost, I want you to know this. You are not broken. You are in transition. And there's no shame in grieving what you hoped would last forever. I needed
Absolutely.
to
And
hear
that
that.
doesn't, yeah. And that
So,
fits for either a divorce or a death. It fit because
yep,
you, either way, you thought that was going to last forever.
yep,
And it's okay.
it
You
is.
know, it's okay to grieve that.
Uh-huh.
So, oh,
Yes, ma'am.
that was
You got me emotionally drained today,
I know
sister.
it. I know, right?
We've
I'm gonna
covered the
look at
gamut today.
the starred comments.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look
Okay.
at the starred comments and go through here,
Mm,
fairly quickly.
yeah.
Um, Brazy says, "John, you should change your shirt." I don't know why. Is it because
I
she
thought
doesn't like
about
who
it
you've got on
between
there?
no, between shows she meant.
Oh, well, I
I
didn't
thought
either,
about
and
it.
then I was laughing because it's stripes, but I thought, well, they would have been
Yeah.
like black stripes, but in Oklahoma they wear orange.
Yeah.
Prisoners wear orange
Oh.
scrubs and pink boxer underwear, regardless of gender.
Oh, so you would have fit right into the stereotype if you'd done that.
I started to wear orange just to be a turd, but I didn't.
Yeah, I figured if
Yeah,
I
David
changed
says,
shirts and popped back on 12 minutes later, people would be like, "What the hell did he change
"Why'd he
shirts
change
for?"
his shirt?" I started to, but I didn't. So David says, "I just had this incredible sense of deja vu." Yeah, we're just still
Mm,
sitting here.
yep, still
Us
sitting here
again.
talking away. Mm,
Yes, Mare, I think so too. She says, "I think us moms need to really teach our sons to share their feelings."
yes.
Absolutely.
Takes a village, ladies. Takes a village.
Mhm.
Mm.
Oh, wow. David says, "My divorce was a painful 5 years." Oh my god, I was
Oh
2
my
years, I don't know
God.
how you did it. I don't know how you did it,
5.
I truly don't.
Ugh.
Mm.
That's a lot.
Brazy says, "Yes, my son cried after his breakup only because it failed. It was a mutual breakup. Lesson learned, I hope." But thank
Yeah.
God he was able to cry.
Yeah. That is a good sign. But that's
That
because his
is.
mama raised him right.
Mhm. David says, "Never remarried, one-time thing." I cannot, still 25 years later, cannot believe me and Mark are married because I was dead set against it. I'm not kidding. I was
Yeah.
like, "I will date them. He can move in here." And he
Mhm.
did. He lived with me for about a year, and then I finally was like, "Fine, let's get married."
All right, Mark, I'll make an honest man out of you.
Yeah.
It's funny though,
So
Susie, they say all the time, and I'm living proof of this, and I think you are too, is that you really find love when you're not looking for it.
Oh, yeah.
When
Yeah.
you're looking for it, that's when you're kissing frogs.
Yeah.
But when
Yeah.
you stop, then Prince Charming walks in the door.
Mhm.
It
Thank
never
God.
fails. Yep.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, this one's Mare says, "Brazy, 1 boy, 2 girls, 2 grandsons, 3 granddaughters, 1 son-in-law just got out of the psych ward after 3 months.
Oh,
So proud of him that he asked for help.
yeah,
If he hadn't,
absolutely.
I'm sure he would have ended it."
Oh,
We've
see?
talked to her a lot about her son-in-law, and
Mhm.
oh,
Yeah, it's a hell of a ride.
he needs the trophy. He needs the
Yes,
trophy for
absolutely.
admitting it.
Tony says, "My ex-husband took his life several years after we divorced.
Mm,
It's been really hard on our adult kids." Oh, I'm so sorry,
yeah,
Tony.
that
I
is
can
awful.
imagine. It sucks.
I like this one.
Dad
Mischief
gets
said,
the
"Dad gets
trophy.
the trophy for that Facebook post." I'll tell Dad too.
Absolutely.
I'll go ahead and let you read some of these. My
Tony says,
voices.
"Thanks, Heat and Incarnasol. I think people get so depressed that they don't recognize the ripple effects it will have on the people they've left behind." Yeah, as
Mhm.
much as we talk
Yeah.
about ripples, there can be negative ripples as well.
Yes.
So we got to be really careful about what you put out there. Tony, our minds can do an amazing job of convincing us that our loved ones would be better off without us. Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
true.
Which is so not true.
And that's
It
where the
is not true.
semicolon comes into play.
Yes, it is.
If any of you spend any time over at Mental Health Matters, you'll know that that's a big one for Keela in the healer community. Is that, and the
Mhm.
semicolon stands for um, your story is not over; it's
Yeah.
just continued. So
Mischief is in 2 different places down there. I'm not sure
she's
why.
all over the place.
Yeah.
Mayor says society gives women permission to lose it when they struggle. Men don't have that. Yeah,
Yeah.
very true. Very true.
Yeah.
Mayor
Mayor,
says,
I
I
agree.
despise Man Up. It's so destructive. Yeah.
I do too. I told you on the last show that we did about this that, in the whole Western and cowboy community, we have cowboy up,
Yeah. Cowboy Up. Yep.
so I'm just like, I hate that. And I mean, they'll put it like on the back window of their trucks or, whatever. They'll have this
Mhm.
on there. Whoops, I forgot to turn these message or
Well, see,
these
I'm a
notifications
Yankee
off.
boy. I lived in Oklahoma for a couple of years, and I learned some
Yeah.
things that I would never have known otherwise. I went
Yeah.
to my first, like, real authentic country bar, where they got sawdust on the
Mhm.
floor, and they had a mechanical bull. That was back when those were a
Mhm.
thing. And I got such a kick out of that because apparently it's a rodeo thing. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And every time somebody would step up, they'd yell, "Cowboy up!" and they would
Yeah.
get on the bull.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
Yeah.
fun.
I've actually
Learn.
rode a mechanical bull and actually, I
Have you?
mean, yeah, I got thrown off of it eventually, but I got pretty good at it. Um, just because I will hang on for dear life. I mean, I'm
I'll
telling
tell
you.
you what, I have a lot of respect for those guys that, because a lot
I
of people don't
I think they're
realize
crazy.
these guys have normal Joe jobs during the week,
Yeah,
and they call
yeah,
them weekend warriors, and they just
yeah.
go rodeo to rodeo, and they pay their own entrance
Mhm,
fees, and they get on those damn things,
mhm.
and man, oh man, you got to
I
be a
have a
special
I have
kind of
a
crazy to be a
a
bull rider.
great friend. I have a great friend that her dad is a world champion steer wrestler, which I think is
Mm,
crazy. And my dad
yeah,
used to do it too in the rodeos, but that if you
really?
don't know, you ride your
Yeah.
horse at full speed along beside a steer with horns
Mhm,
that's running as fast as it can, and you dive
mhm,
off that damn horse, a
mhm,
perfectly good horse, and
yeah,
grab that thing by the horns and flip it over. Now,
mhm, and
no.
tie all 4 of its feet together.
Yeah, tie all 4 of its feet together. So, no, not happening. My dad was he did that, he did bronc riding, I can't talk,
Mhm,
which is a horse, a bucking horse.
bucking
He
horse,
did
yeah.
bareback and saddle bronc, and he did roping. He was my brother
Awesome.
ropes to this day, and my dad did the steer roping. So he always rodeoed, but
I'm telling you.
so a cowboy in his job. So whenever
Mhm,
I was growing up, what we would do was dad and us would go with him and do all the cowboy stuff all week, and then on the weekends, we would go do all the cowboy stuff for fun.
yeah.
I'm like, "Ugh,
After the work's over, let's go have
yeah,
fun.
let's do it
That's what I'm
again."
telling you, Susie, your daddy was a man, a man.
He is something.
Yep.
Yeah, Born JW says, "Big boys don't cry." That's right.
Yeah,
They're told that from the time they're little.
well,
Absolutely.
apparently I didn't get that that memo. That menu. God, it's time for me to go to bed too. John, you
Yeah,
threw a
John, you
pebble
threw a pebble. Yeah,
and the ripples are gonna keep going and going. Let's hope
I
so,
think so
Mayor.
too. I
Let's
do.
hope
I
so.
think so too.
It's about time. Comment not for long, John. We're getting matching prison dance with Susie.
Everybody's getting a Tweety bird.
Oh, everybody's getting you get a Tweety bird and you get a Tweety bird.
Ah,
Oh my
that's
goodness.
funny. Okay.
Healing
Oh, thank
message.
you, Born
No,
JW.
thank you.
Healing message. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Oops, there we go.
SAD is also very prevalent in places with long winters and dark, rainy days. Hmm.
Yeah, seasonal, um, disorder,
Oh,
that
yeah,
seasonal
yeah.
disorder. Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah,
I
it
never
is.
thought of that before, but yeah, that makes sense.
Mhm.
I was a tough, unbreakable man until the day that I ruptured a disc in my back while at work. 3 surgeries later, and I still need help opening a jar sometimes. Oof.
Mm.
Sorry.
And that's okay.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, here's,
Unconscious or conscious
conscious
uncoupling. Yep.
coupling.
Yeah, that's the
There is
book.
the link.
Yeah. I'm not far into it, but I like what I'm seeing so
Mhm.
far. So, and it was highly recommended by a friend.
Mhm.
Born. There are several with that title, all about different topics. One for parents, one for moving on. If you just put the title into Amazon, you'll see all of them.
That's good. Pick the one that works for you.
Mhm.
And this is our last one.
All right. Barbie says, important topic and very informative. Thank you, Susie and John, for your compassion and honesty. You two make a great team. I think
Aw,
we do
thank
too.
you. I
I
think we do
really do.
too.
I think we
I
do
think we
too.
do too. We're gonna have to do more of these.
Yeah.
I will get with you in the next day or two and we'll get the one on the eating
The
disorders
eating disorders.
scheduled.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, this has been a strange week. I've had,
Really.
so much going on that I've had to cancel more shows than I've done. But
The
that's fixing
weather's
to
just been
change. So,
nuts.
yeah, the
Yeah.
weather's been terrible. So,
Mhm.
I don't wanna do another one of those where I'm talking and happen to look up and see that I'm not even online
And not
anymore.
live anymore. Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
not live anymore. But guys, thank you so much. John, thank you so much for being here. You make it so much easier and your wisdom just gets to me.
Oh,
Just, and your
well,
ability to show it, just your
well,
willingness to show.
your strength gets to me, Susie. So
Aw,
thank you for
thank
having
you.
me. I
Thank
appreciate you
you.
very much.
And anyway, so guys, we're gonna go ahead and go. I haven't eaten
Hmm.
today, and I'm gonna go find something to eat. So,
All right.
we will see you guys tomorrow. I do have a little uh, Emma is gonna be here tomorrow.
Oh,
So
I'll be
yeah,
here for that.
yeah,
Thanks,
yeah.
everybody.
Immature
Thanks
Emma
for
will
hanging.
be here tomorrow. So
Thanks for
thank you
hanging
guys.
in there with us tonight, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate you. All right. Have a good.
Hope you enjoyed the show. So glad you were here. We meet here most days. We're but first coffee and you're welcome here. We talk about hard subjects, but we also laugh a lot. If you have a loss or win, we will cheer for you. We're but first coffee and you are safe here. So hit those like and subscribe buttons, notifications set to all. You don't want to miss a show, because this is your home to y'all. So hit those like and subscribe buttons, notifications set to all. You don't want to miss a show, because this is your home to y'all. So hit those like and subscribe buttons, notifications set to all.